Hello everyone, in this video we'll see how data validation works and how to use it in your Excel files. In a nutshell, data validation is a tool that allows you to restrict what you or other people can write in a cell. Data validation also allows you to create a drop-down list in a cell. Follow me into Excel and I'll show you how to best use it. As you can see, we'll work once again on our security database. We have a list of securities in column A, the category and country associated with each security, and a value for 2020 and 2019 of each security. If you're wondering, that's how much Warren Buffett held in those securities at the end of 2020 and 2019. On the right-hand side of the page, we have a little dashboard we'd like to populate using data validation. We'd like cell H4 to show the value for a specific security and a specific year we select in cells H2 and H3. This is a classic example where a drop-down list is needed. So let's start filling cell H2 with the list of securities to be chosen. To do so, let's select H2, go to the Data tab of the ribbon, and here we have this little icon which is Data Validation. I also have it here in my Quick Access toolbar, as you can see. If you don't know what the Quick Access toolbar is, I recommend you check out my video on it, as it's a must-use feature of Excel. Once we open the data validation window, we see we have multiple options we can choose if we click here under Allow. We can allow whole numbers only, a list, a date, and so on. In our case, we want to pick from a list, so we select List. In the second part of the video, we'll quickly go through the other options. You see, in cell drop-down appears, and let's keep the selection. And down here, in source, we should input the list of entries that are allowed in our cell. Here we have two options. We can either refer to a set of cells in the workbook, or we can type the list directly in the source field. As a suggestion from my experience, if the list is relatively long, from something around 7-8 items up, it is easier to refer to a set of cells. But if the list is short, it could be better to write the list directly in here. Let's see both options. Since in cell H2 we want to list all our securities, we need to refer to a set of cells, so our option 1. So let's go here, Shift Control and the down arrow. Let's press Enter and let's go up here. As you can see, there's now an arrow next to our cell. If you press it, you can select the value you want the cell to have. Let's say American Express. In our case, the range of cells we selected is on the same sheet as the drop-down list, but it could also be in another sheet. And now let's use option 2 to fill cell H3 with a drop-down list to select the year. Let's press on Data Validation again, allow List, and now we can write directly here in source. No need to use equal at the beginning, we write 2019. Now we should use our argument separator to list the different entries, in our case comma, and now we must not use spaces at the beginning of the next items. So we just type 2020. OK. We press OK, and as you can see, we have once again our arrow, and now we can only select between 2019 and 2020. This is very practical, as in this case, we don't need to write the two values somewhere in the workbook. As you can see, we do not have two cells with just 2019 and 2020 written in this sheet. By the way, you can either select the value you want the cell to have, or you can also type it directly with your keyboard. So for example, in this case, we can type 2020, enter. But it must be an allowed entry. If we type 2027, for example, and we press enter, you see we have an error message. Let's hit ask. Okay, and now that we have both lists, we can write the formula to retrieve the value we want in cell H4. There are multiple ways we could do this. Let's keep it simple and use if and XLOOKUP. So let's write it down. If the logical test, if this cell H3 is equal to 2020, comma, XLOOKUP, tab, lookup value, this one, comma, where this one, shift control down, comma, the return array in the case of 2020 is going to be column D, shift control down, we close the first XLOOKUP, comma, what happens if the logical test is false, meaning what happens if we have 2019, we use XLOOKUP, American Express once again, comma, security list once again, comma, and now we pick 2019, shift control down. We close XLOOKUP, we close if, we press enter, and let's scroll up. Okay, we Control C, paste the formatting, Alt 4. In my case, I have the shortcut here in my quick access toolbar once again. Otherwise, you can right click and use paste formatting, or use the regular shortcut here to access the paste options in the home tab of the ribbon. Before we see the other options for data validation, let me close this overview of drop-down lists with a tip to improve your productivity. You do not need to press the arrows here on the right to open the list. You can also press Alt and the down arrow key to open the list and select the value you want with the arrows once again. Once done, you can press enter and select the value. As you can see, American Express changed a little bit and now has 2019 value. And now, let's go here and click on data validation once again. So, data and data validation. As promised, we quickly go through the other options we have. If we go here and we click under allow again, we start with whole number. If you select it, you see you can further customize your choice. For example, you can choose an interval of values allowed, specifying a minimum and maximum value, or if we click here, you can choose, for example, that all your entries should be greater than 0 or whatever you want. You can also choose your entries to be a decimal number with the same customization allowed. You can choose a date or a time, and once again, you can choose your date or your time to be between a certain start time and end time, or in case of date, between a certain start date and end date. Next, we can select text length, and here we can select to allow only entries whose length has a specific number of characters. For example, we can specify that our entries should have only 4 characters allowed. So for example, end is not allowed, game is allowed, and Excel is not allowed because it is too long. And finally, if we click on custom, we could customize our allowed entries by using a formula. In the other two tabs of the data validation window, we can customize the input message showing up when the cell is selected, or the error message that appears when you type a not allowed entry. These last two tabs are especially useful if you need to share your files, as they can guide the final user. Once you're done with your data validation definition, you can click on OK and apply that to your cell. And this is how data validation works. I hope you found this video useful. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button below if you want to stay up to date with the newest releases. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you in the next video.